Let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer. If you've been tracking the top 10 economic forces shaping the future, well, purchasing power absolutely has to be on your list. It's kind of like the invisible current that's constantly pushing and pulling the global economy. Today, we're taking a data-driven journey to track the fascinating and, honestly, sometimes shocking disparities in global wealth. We're going to look at everything from the everyday cost of a simple haircut all the way up to the astronomical, sky-high prices of luxury real estate. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how far your money really goes depending on where you just so happen to be standing on the map.
So, let's start with Section 1, the value of a dollar. To really wrap our heads around the economic forces shaping our world right now, we have to recognize a fundamental truth about money. A single dollar's value? It's completely relative. A dollar in your pocket right now does not carry the same weight as a dollar in someone else's pocket halfway across the globe. It's an illusion of a standard. We tend to think of money as this fixed ruler, but actually, scratch that, it's more like it's made of rubber. It stretches. To show you just how wild this relativity gets, I want you to think about this for a second. How much does a men's haircut cost in Norway? Just picture a standard, everyday barbershop in the highly developed capital city of Oslo. Got a number in your head? You're probably thinking about what you pay locally, maybe adding a slight premium because, it's a wealthy Scandinavian country. Lock that number in? Well, prepare to have your economic expectations seriously adjusted.
That brings us to Section 2, the Global Haircut Index.
Using data sourced from the OLX community's tracking of prices across capital cities, we get this absolutely perfect micro-level look at purchasing power. Now, why haircuts? Well, because they're a localized service. They are completely immune to international shipping costs, import taxes, or global supply chain bottlenecks. They just require one human being, a pair of scissors, and time. That makes them a pure reflection of a local economy's baseline strength. And wow, does this brilliantly illustrate the global divide. Look at this incredible contrast. In Norway, you're paying on average $64.50 for a standard men's haircut. But meanwhile, in Zambia, that exact same service, the exact same basic trim, costs just $1.65. Let that sink in for a second. For the price of just one single haircut in Norway, you could theoretically get your haircut almost 40 times in Zambia. No way, right? It's a staggering reality check on the sheer relativity of a dollar's value.
Let's look at how the middle ground shakes out across some other recognizable median anchors. In Japan, you're still paying a pretty steep premium at $56. The USA sits around $44, while France drops down into the 30s at $37.05. But then, look at the dramatic slide as we change continents and economic zones. In Brazil, it drops down to $8.67, and in India, it's just $5.29. Remember, it is the exact same service. It requires the exact same amount of human labor and time. But the economic forces of the local market dictate wildly different valuations for that time. So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the underlying economic mechanism driving these wild prices, and that is purchasing power. Simply put, this is your financial ability to buy products and services. It acts as a direct, completely unclouded mirror for a nation's local economic strength. When we talk about the top 10 economic forces shaping your future, local purchasing power is right at the top of the list. High local wages in a place like Norway push the baseline cost of services way up, while lower average wages in places like Zambia or India keep those local service costs dramatically lower. Your money literally bends to the will of the local economy.
Okay. Let's move on and see how this builds. Because if purchasing power stretches and distorts the cost of a 20-minute trip to the barber, what in the world does it do to massive, life-changing sums of money? Let's take the magic number, $1 million. In a lot of places, and definitely in pop culture, becoming a millionaire is still viewed as the ultimate financial milestone. It's the finish line. But just like our haircut index, the reality of what $1 million actually means is shifting rapidly right beneath our feet.
Section 3. What 1 million buys.
I want you to imagine taking that $1 million in cold, hard cash and trying to buy property in the most exclusive, top-tier markets in the world. How fast do you think that money vanishes when you enter the hyper-competitive realm of extreme wealth? The sheer cliff-like scale of the drop-off here is striking. According to the Knight Frank Wealth Report, $1 million buys you a fairly spacious 91 square meters in Dubai. Honestly, that's a very comfortable living space. But take that exact same $1 million to New York City, your space instantly shrinks to 34 square meters. That's essentially a tiny studio apartment. And then we look at Monaco. For a cool $1 million, you secure a mere 16 square meters. 16! That is barely the size of a walk-in closet or, like, a large parking space. It's a vivid illustration of how wealth concentrates and how intensely competitive prime land has actually become.
Let's expand this out to the broader global spectrum, just to see how other major hubs compare. In Hong Kong, $1 million gets you just 22 square meters. London and Paris are hovering in the tight 30s and 40s. Tokyo gives you a little bit more breathing room at 64 square meters. And then look at Mumbai, where a massive $1 million investment yields 103 square meters. That's significantly more space than London or Hong Kong, but still incredibly expensive when contrasted with the local average income. These aren't just arbitrary real estate numbers, they represent an immense economic force where global capital is fiercely competing for finite space, driving prices so high that $1 million barely gets you in the front door.
Which brings us to Section 4, Renters versus Owners.
We've looked at the micro, the everyday cost of a haircut, and the macro, the staggering exclusivity of luxury real estate. But what happens right in the middle? How do these global economic forces actually shape the future for the average person who's caught between the anxiety over rising everyday costs and the absolute exclusivity of luxury investments? Well, this leads us to a fascinating and deeply poignant observation from the ALEX community that synthesizes our data perfectly. Quote, "The middle class is now split into renters and owners." We're neutrally reporting this here because it just so perfectly reflects the shifting economic reality our data just proved. Acquiring assets, like those prime properties we just looked at, is becoming increasingly polarized. As purchasing power fluctuates and the cost of entry into real estate skyrockets in major global hubs, the traditional concept of a unified middle class is fracturing. Basically, you're either holding an asset that is appreciating against inflation, or you're paying an ever-increasing premium just to occupy space.
So, to bring this all together, what is our micro to macro picture really telling us? First, global pricing is entirely relative. Your money is only as strong as the local economy it's spent in. Second, $1 million shrinks incredibly rapidly in prime global markets. It's just no longer the guarantee of a massive estate. And third, the gap between everyday expenses and the acquisition of luxury, or even standard assets, is widening. These are undeniable economic forces shaping the future of global wealth, and they dictate the rules of the game for sure, whether we realize it or not.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate question you really have to ask yourself as we wrap up today. If a haircut and a home are both totally relative, how far does your local economy stretch your purchasing power? Are you positioned in a market where your money commands respect and buys assets, or are you in a market that eats your wealth alive through high localized costs? It's a critical lens for understanding your own economic standing in a rapidly changing world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the data around you, and I'll see you next time.